Thank you for joining us. Okay, it's time to start. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm happy to welcome you here to participate in our third session of R&D Career Talk. My name is Jane Kim, and I will be your moderator for this session. And I'm interculturalist. I'm teaching about Korean culture and working culture in Korea. So if you have any question, you can contact me to ask about culture in here. Okay, now we have two speaker and panelists with me, and I'd like to introduce the panelist, Arujang. So could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So, hi everyone. My name is Arujang Sarbaswa, and I'm really honored to join this session as a panelist. So, I'm from Kazakhstan, and currently I'm pursuing my master's degree in KIRD in the field of language education and artificial intelligence. So basically my research interest lies in the intersection of language education, artificial intelligence, NLP, and yeah, the life of technology really interests me. So yeah, I'm really glad to join you.
Thank you. So this is the third session of a career talk. KIRD is a government-funded institute under the Ministry of Science and ICT, and KIRD supports a career development program, especially for researchers and the science and technology field. Okay, in our first seminar, we invited a researcher from a startup who shared his journey about getting a job in Korea and adapted to the Korean working culture. In the second session, we welcome a researcher from Samsung SDS who shared his career journey as a global researcher in major Korean company. Okay, in case of the second speaker, he introduced about his role and discussed the trend in the AI industry and shared a useful strategy for job hunting and interview preparation. So you can watch the previous session in KIRD YouTube. So if you access to the YouTube of KIRD, you can watch all those sessions before. And also, please subscribe. Okay, so now today we are moving to a new and very practical topic, practical networking tips for global researchers. So we will explore how global researchers can network effectively in Korea, share experience, and find meaningful opportunity for collaboration. So we really hope today feel less like a lecture and more like a conversation and something relaxed, open talk. So if you have any comments that you want to share or any question, please feel free to put on chat. So we will check it and we will answer later on. Okay, now I would like to invite today's speaker, Victor J. Drew. Let me introduce about his bio. So he's a postdoctoral research associate from almost 2 years at Institute for Basic Science and bachelor's in biology from San Diego State University in California, and master's in medical science from Taipei Medical University, and PhD from Gwangju Institute of Science and Technology in the departments of biomedical science and engineering with a focusing on neuroscience. So he got the visa F27S. Okay, now let's welcome today's speaker, Victor J. Drew.
All right. First off, I'd like to say thank you to KIRD for giving me the opportunity to speak in front of you all today. As Jane mentioned earlier, that networking, I think it should be a kind of more casually and more relaxed topic. So I would like to think of it as more natural. So I'm going to try to speak this presentation in a more natural way. So the things I'm going to talk about today is, first, I'm going to give a brief introduction about my own personal background and academic journey. I'm going to mention how networking played a role in my academic and career development. And then I'm going to try to give some tips and tricks for networking that I think could be useful to you if you're pursuing a research and development career in Korea. So my journey in academics is a little bit of a unique one. I happen to be the first person in my family to actually ever attend and graduate from a university. So I didn't exactly have the same guidance that some other people may have, but it was always something that I knew I wanted to do. I wanted to make sure I graduated. And then one step led to another, and I wanted to pursue academia more and more. Now, I was born and raised in San Diego, California, and I actually earned my bachelor's degree at San Diego State University in biology. Now, it actually took me 8 years to graduate, and that's because I was working a full-time job at FedEx at that time, because I wanted to avoid student debt as much as possible. Now, at the time, I also wanted to be a medical doctor, so I would actually volunteer at Scripps Hospital Emergency Room, and during this time, I would see several patients repetitively. Like they would come in for treatment, and then a few weeks or months later, they would relapse into whatever problem sent them to the hospital in the first place. And that got me thinking, well, what kind of career can I pursue that whenever I solve a problem, that problem will remain solved? And I think science is a very good way to do that, because when you make a discovery or when you cure a disease, that discovery remains discovered. Then you move on to the next discovery. So towards the ending of my bachelor's degree, I actually took 2 semesters to study abroad at Yonsei University in Gwangju. Now, while I was abroad in Korea, it was an amazing experience. And towards the end of that experience, one of the professors actually invited me to participate in a community service program in Taiwan. So it was called Ruibin Camp. And during that community service program, one of the professors there realized that I wanted to pursue a career in medical science. And he offered me the opportunity to pursue a master's degree in medical science at Taipei Medical University. He was telling me that if I joined that program, it would be fully funded, so I wouldn't have to worry about getting any types of scholarships or anything like that. My finances would be covered. So I decided to pursue that route. I completed my master's degree in medical science from Taipei Medical University. It took me 2 years, and during that time, I continued my community service with Ruibin Camp. And Ruibin Camp is it helps underprivileged children. So it was a community service opportunity to give back to Taiwan. And I also served as a vice president of Taipei Medical University's International Student Association. Now, while I was attending this master's program in Taipei Medical University, I managed to publish a lot of articles in several different topics, including everything from pathogen inactivation technology, nanoparticles for transdermal drug delivery, dry eye syndrome, breast cancer. And one of the papers was actually recently published this year from data that was like 8 years ago. So now, after I graduated from my master's program in Taiwan, I reached a crossroads where it's, do I want to continue to pursue my PhD in Taiwan, or would I like to either go back to the US or reconsider going back to Korea? And while looking for opportunities, I came across a neuroscience opportunity in Gwangju Institute of Science and Technology. So I decided to pursue my PhD in neuroscience at GIST. Now, my PhD took 6 years, and during those 6 years, I served as a moderator for a YouTube channel for GIST, Biomedical Science and Engineering. So that channel is still up and running in case you want to check that out. I was also an advisor for GIST International Student Association. And one of the most important moments in my PhD career was my oral presentation that I delivered for the Society for Neuroscience, also known as SFN, which happens to be the biggest neuroscience conference in the world. And it takes place in my hometown of San Diego, California. So this is going to be very important for the concept of networking, as I'll explain later. Now, while I was working on my PhD, my topic was relating Alzheimer's disease and neurodegenerative disorders and sleep, like the progressive sleep deterioration that would occur. So my discoveries were basically chronological sequencing of how sleep would deteriorate over time with a neurodegenerative disease. And with that research, I managed to publish several different articles. And then here's just a little video that I took while I was doing my research. But after graduation, I came across another crossroads where I had to choose whether I wanted to continue to pursue a career in Korea or if I wanted to go back to the US. So here are some of the weights that I considered. was that in the US, I had my friends and my family. They're people that I am familiar with, it's a culture I'm familiar with, and it's a language that I am an expert in. Whereas in Korea, I would largely have to meet new people, but I see this as an opportunity. And it's also an opportunity to learn a new language, which is definitely challenging, but I get to be the first person in my family to learn a second language. Now, US has amazing financial opportunities, but it also is very expensive compared to living in Korea. And I'm getting a little bit older, so things like national health insurance are actually important to me. San Diego has very, very good weather year-round, but Korea offers me the opportunity to enjoy a variety of different seasons. So right now it's going to be winter, and I'm going to be looking forward to snowboarding. And one of the key factors that made me lean towards Korea was the ability to leave my phone or wallet on a table and come back several hours later and know everything is going to be just fine. So these were factors that made me ultimately choose Korea. Now, I mentioned earlier that I attended the Society for Neuroscience conference to deliver an oral presentation that took place in San Diego. Now, on the flight from Korea to San Diego, I was traveling with my professor, and my professor noticed another scientist who was sitting in that same plane. He said, "Hey, Victor, do you know who that scientist is over there? That's Professor Justin Lee. He's one of the most famous, influential neuroscientists in Korea." And I thought, wow, that's a pretty amazing opportunity to meet someone who's been really, really successful. So when the plane lands, my professor introduces me to Professor Justin Lee. Now, we have a brief conversation, and then towards the end of that conversation, we learn that the professor hasn't arranged transportation from the airport to his hotel. And since this is San Diego and this is my hometown and I have family there, we decide, hey, how about me and my family drop you off at your hotel? And then after that, we'll meet at the conference later. So we did that. We dropped off Professor Justin Lee at his hotel. Then we went to our hotels, and we met at the conference. Now, fast forward 2 years later. And remember, I gave an oral presentation at that conference. Fast forward 2 years later, I just recently graduated with my PhD from GIST, and I'm attending a seminar that's held at Institute for Basic Science. Now, it turns out that the director of this Institute for Basic Science is Professor Justin Lee.
Wow.
So I'm there attending this conference, and I just freshly graduated, and I'm getting to meet some of the lab members, and the lab members are saying, "Hey, I remember you. You gave that talk at Society for Neuroscience. I remember you." And these are people I didn't have the privilege of meeting because I was a speaker and then they were audience members, but they remembered me. Now, I mentioned to the lab and the professor that, hey, look, I recently graduated and I am looking for work. Fast forward several months later, now I work very proudly. I'm very happy to work as a postdoctoral research associate for Institute of Basic Science. So that's the story for me and my background and how I ended up where I am in academia. Now I'm going to shift gears and talk about some important concepts in networking. So many of you may be familiar with the phrase, it's not what you know, but who you know. I'm going to take that a step further and emphasize that it's not who you know, it's who knows you. This puts emphasis on the fact that you can't just go up and meet someone and then think you can ask for something from them. So there's more of a relationship that should be formed off of that. The second one is your network is your net worth. This is self-explanatory. It's you become more valuable when you know more people. Another one is you can get anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. This is an actually very important point because you shouldn't be forming networks for the goal of getting something from other people. It's better to provide value. And then the next one is the time to build a network is always before you need one. So you shouldn't be thinking, oh, you know what? I need a job now. Time to build my network and then see if I can ask people for a job. as I mentioned in my previous experience, I met the professors long before. I had no idea I was going to, they were going to play an influential role in the development of my academic career. I had no idea. I just met someone because I thought that's really cool that they're a really prestigious scientist, and I wanted to know more about their work. So again, the time to build a network is always before you need one. Now, networking, and in the aspect of research, it leads to a lot of its own benefits, including employment opportunities, which I just mentioned, access to resources. So, for example, if you're working in a lab and then you need access to another machine, well, if you have that network already formed and you already know someone who has access to that machine, then you gain access to it. That also applies for information, the exchange of ideas, so people that you can bounce ideas off of and get feedback. Mentorship opportunities. Sometimes people can teach you very valuable information. Introductions to new people. So this works two ways. You can have the opportunity to meet other people and introduce other people to other people and expand everyone's network. This can also serve benefits in social circles. And then it also has an opportunity to build your reputation. So if you meet people and then they know who you are, they can say, oh, hey, I remember Victor. He helped me out with this thing. He's a good guy. And then before you know it, you already have a good reputation and people know you. And I understand you guys wouldn't recognize this, but earlier today on my way over here, some people helped us find the locations for the bus exits and things like that. And I met people that I already knew. So that was a really awesome thing that happened today with regards to networking. Now, I'm going to give some examples of how networking also affected my academic career directly. So this paper here that says blood transfusion, this was my first academic publication ever. Now, at the time, the impact factor was 1.5, which in biology is not very high. But because I was able to leverage the cooperation of other high esteemed professors, their names, I believe, and their contributions to this paper boosted the quality of this paper and the outreach. And it managed to get roughly 17 citations in the first year and 21 citations in the second year. This is for a paper that was at the time an impact factor 1.5. So that was one aspect. A second aspect was through LinkedIn, like building a network through that and communication and keeping it up to date. It allowed me to receive job opportunities. I'm leaning more towards science and instead of the advertising and marketing, but it's nice to have these options come in. And then third, these pictures on the right-hand side here, these are professors and leaders and collaborators that I've met over the time, and many of them now are family friends. So this is another benefit from networking. Now, from here on out, I'm going to give some practical tips that I think could be useful for you. Some of them are going to sound a little cliche, but they're very important, and some of them I'm hoping I can give you some tips that you've also never heard of. So to start off with some basic ones is to be polite and professional. So the first example is going to be in the context of seminars and conferences. And I think that seminars and conferences are some of the most ideal places for networking when you are looking at academic jobs and sometimes for research, for industry jobs as well. And the reason is because you get the opportunity to meet these people face to face. They're delivering presentations, and then after the presentation, you can go up and talk to them. You can ask them questions. You can provide opportunities to collaborate with their projects. You can offer them insights for things that you've learned off of your own projects. So first and foremost, be polite and be professional, which I would say if you dress appropriately, I would also say dress better than what you think the necessity is. If the necessity is semi-formal, go a little bit more towards the formal side. Just it helps in ways that you probably wouldn't recognize until it benefits you. Second one is engage directly. show interest in people's work, be genuine. Third is offer value, meaning that, again, you're not looking for what you can get out of them. You're looking for how you can be useful and how you can provide value to them. So track interactions. So as you can see with this picture here, I'm standing next to a poster, and people will come up. If they're interested in what I'm talking about, they're going to ask me questions. So sometimes I'm going to have answers to those questions, and I'll be able to say, hey, look, this is what we were thinking, and bounce ideas back off of them. But sometimes I won't have the answer directly. And if that's the case, in conferences, a lot of times you're wearing a name tag. That name tag also shows the institute that you're associated with. You can try to find that person and contact them with the answer to their question. Show them that you are interested and that you're taking their question seriously. That simple thing can leave a lasting impression on them in case you see them in the future. And there's been many times in conferences where I've met someone at a poster presentation, and I've networked with them and then made contacts, and then I discussed other plans with them later. So the next thing I would say is, given the opportunity to choose between oral presentations and poster presentations, I know it's daunting and it's more challenging, but I would always recommend going with the oral presentations. It reaches a broader audience. It allows a stronger first impression. When people see that, they think, oh, this person is taking this very seriously. It makes you more memorable and recognizable, as was the case for me when I applied to Institute for Basic Science. People from the audience recognized me from my presentation. And it allows you to talk more about your research to a broader audience than you'd be able to talking one at a time at a poster. And yes, I understand that at a poster, you can have very in-depth discussions with one-on-one, but I still recommend the oral presentations. Now, the second approach to networking could also be online using social media. So several common links for that would be LinkedIn, Instagram, ResearchGate, Google Scholar, Loop, and Publons. Personally, I use LinkedIn, ResearchGate, Google Scholar, and Instagram. And I know that Instagram may not be thought of as a professional social network, but I think you'd be surprised how many times professionals will look at your Instagram, your Facebook to get any information about you. So my general advice on that would be to keep your posts professional. Even though Instagram and Facebook are kind of personal spaces, I would recommend you keep them professional, because there are times when employers are looking at that. Try to avoid liking and commenting on controversial posts. There may be some social media posts based off of your feed that you definitely agree with, something that's politically charged or personal or like controversial or negative. You can visually appreciate it, but I would avoid pushing the like button or commenting on it, because these comments get shared with a lot of other people. And then try to be active on your professional sites. Try to keep your LinkedIn and these types of social media updated, so that way when people are trying to figure out what you've been up to, they can get updated information. Now, I also posted an article on the side here. This is a strategy that I've used before. Well, if an article is published and you read it and you like it and it's very valuable information, you can reach out to the author using the correspondence information. And when you reach out to them, you can say, hey, look, I really appreciated this article. I had some questions about figure 3, but I really like what you've done here with this information. You can contact them and then build a network that way. I've done that for journal clubs. Or you don't even have to have a question. You can just reach out to them and say, hey, look, congratulations on this article that you published. I think that the information is very valuable to society and to science. That's it. Just send them that compliment. Then it's possible that 3 months later, you see that same professor in a conference. You go up to them and then you say, hey, I remember that paper that you published. And then, oh, yeah, I was the person who sent you an email to congratulate you. And before you know it, you've built a new network. The third one is networking examples for within your own universities and workplaces. So the key point on this one is, once again, you can get anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. what I'm saying by that is you don't know who it is that's going to be valuable to you in the future. So it's just better to try to establish a network with everyone. So sometimes you'll see a familiar face down the hallway. Just greet them. Hey, how's it going? How's your day? Like this kind of thing, small talk. And then before you know it, you make friends and connections. And then later on in life, they may be able to help you out with something, or you may be able to help them out with something. It's good either way. And then you can include people in activities or invite people to events. You can expand other people's networks by being the person who introduces people to others. That's actually a really cool thing to do. Oftentimes when I go to events and I know someone, I will introduce this person to another person I know, and I will establish the network for them. People will find value in this, and people will appreciate you for it. And it builds networks. Again, don't think of networking in terms of what you can gain, but what you can provide to others. So consider volunteering. Don't limit connections to those who can benefit you. And remember that networking is a skill, just like any other skill, which needs to be developed and practiced over time. So if you're shy or if you're introverted, you may think, oh, I don't want to do networking because it's difficult. It is difficult, but it's a skill. And most skills that are difficult are the ones that are worth learning. So, and then as one final note here is, while you're in Korea, I highly recommend learning Korean. Now, generally, Korean is not required in laboratory settings because most research, international research, is conducted in English. However, many Koreans are shy with communicating in English, and they will tend to open up more to you if you do know Korean. And when you're able to access more conversations, you gain more information, more connections, friendships, opportunities. You become more approachable to people who would otherwise be shy. There are some people who would want to talk to you, but they're just shy with English, so they're not going to. But if you speak Korean, or if they think that they are not going to be judged for how they communicate with you in English, then that makes more opportunities to communicate. And learning Korean shows respect for the culture. And you learn subtle nuances in the language. Like there are certain aspects of language that can teach you things about the culture. And then these skills can also be used for networking. And ultimately, it enables more collaborations. So with all of that said, I would like to say once again, thanks to KIRD for giving me the opportunity to speak in front of you guys. And thank you guys for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, Victor. Okay, so I saw that many people are participating on the chat and then share your opinion. That's great. So we want to have a more interaction and want to listen your opinion and your question as well. Okay, now let's move on to our second sessions, that is answering for the question. Actually, we already received some questions in advance, and then we will cover some of questions to answer that from our speakers and our panelists. Okay, so first question, how to approach other researchers for collaboration? Do we need to send our idea to other researchers to see if he or she is willing to work on this or not? So what is the good way and solutions to recommend? If there is anything that you want to collaborate with other researchers in like researching and studying, and how you can approach them?
If I'm trying to approach someone that I want to do a collaboration with, the first thing I try to do is to, I would say offer value, but the first thing I would do is just try to meet this person. Hi, how are you? I read this thing that you published. I think that it's a great experiment design and all of this. And I also was doing a similar project. Well, what do you think about this? Now, one kind of cautious approach is you kind of want to generally get a feel for this person and who they are and what type of research they do. I wouldn't just jump into the idea of, I want to collaborate with you. Like, I would think of it like, how about we work on this small thing together? And if this small thing works out, then I will give a little bit more of a project that we can collaborate on. Because if you start with a small idea, it doesn't require much investment from them, and it doesn't give much risk to you. Now, in terms of approaching them, I don't approach them because I want to collaborate with them initially. I generally just approach them because I like something that they've done. And if there's someone, okay, I want to work with you. Why do I want to work with you? I want to work with you because you've done this research that I think is good. That's where I'm going to start. I'm going to say, you've done this research that I think is good. Here's what I'm thinking about doing. I'm thinking about something like this. What do you think? What do you think about this project? Oh, they're going to offer you some feedback, and then they will see if there's any way that they can actually contribute to that. Like, I think that conversation will reveal if a collaboration is even possible. I don't lean into it by saying, hey, I want you to help me with this. Can you help me with this? I usually try to have a general conversation first before I say, let's do a collaboration.
Really good idea. So people in Korea, actually, in a cultural basis, we have some tendency that we try to avoid uncertainty. So in these situations, like a small project and small steps is something that they less challenging about the situation, or this they can see some opportunity with you and through you, but still they don't know you yet. So it's a kind of a time with a small step and small projects to try first, and then they got some kind of a certainty increase. Then maybe next time the bigger project and bigger projects. There is a really good progress and recommendation.
Based off of that, I would also mention there's a concept in Korean culture called nunchi. This is about reading another person, like reading the atmosphere, being aware of the how another person is feeling. So because of that, I think it's important to approach things slowly and not just, hey, help me, work with me. Just take it slow, take it easy, get a feel for what are they feeling.
Yeah, this kind of small discussions lead to a big, more maybe meaningful relationship, I think.
Yeah.
So you face any difficulty because of this nunchi? Nunchi is something every time you mention that you need to have a nunchi.
Definitely.
I give you nunchi, and please give me some nunchi, or nunchi is everywhere.
I think it's really important skill to be able to learn what's going on around you, to read the atmosphere. So yeah, it's the thing that we have to develop, I think, intentionally.
Yeah, that's very true. If I explain a little bit more about nunchi, nunchi is something that you need to consider three factors. The first one is about your superior. So this means your superior, what kind of person he is, or your professor, or your boss. We have to read about him. So we have to understand about him. That is the first, very important, because Korean is very top-down decision making. And then the second one is about the environments, how other people think, and what is the people having in their mind, or they love to do this, or then I only wanted to do this, and all these things are something that you also need to consider the other. And another thing is past and future. So what has happened regarding of this project or this kind of thing, and what is their ambition in the future. So in the past, if they had a very big failure about this kind of a proposal, then maybe they just reject it because of their experience. But if they have a very big ambition in the future about this kind of opportunity, then it is a kind of a very high probability that they will accept your proposal. So three things you have to in mind about your boss, and then about the people, colleague, and what they want to do with this one, and then about past and future things. So that is a three factor that you may need to consider. Great. Okay, so next questions. For international researchers who are still learning Korean, what are some effective way or environments to practice networking and communication skill within the Korean R&D community? Important question.
Okay, well, Korean language is still, while you can still get a career in research and development without using any Korean, as I mentioned, Korean is definitely going to be helpful. And the key to that is to put in effort. Now, if you put in effort, it may take some time, but you will get there and you will learn the language anyway. And during that time, while you are learning the language, other people are going to see that. and that they're going to consider that more approachable. That's going to make things more approachable for them. So as the time while you're getting better, even if you know very little and you're getting a little bit better and you're trying to communicate with people in Korean, slowly, little by little, they are going to increase their communication with you. So I wouldn't think of it as, I don't know enough Korean right now to form a collaboration or communicate with this person or network with them. I would still just try using the little Korean that you may know and you do whatever you can for that.
How about you? You're
Yeah.
speaking good English, good Korean, right?
Good Korean. So yeah, I'm still learning Korean, but I believe that attending some kind of bilingual seminars is really important because in Korea, as I have noticed, there are a lot of seminars that are both held in English and Korean and any other languages. So attending this kind of seminars and at the same time trying to work on your Korean level is really important because in Korea, in not only in Seoul but in other like smaller cities, there are a lot of communities for learners, Korean language learners. So joining this kind of different cultural communities that where you not only learn Korean language but learn more about Korean culture, it really helps a lot. So personally, this kind of again networking while learning Korean language naturally, talking to natives, it helped me really a lot.
That's outside of your research
Yeah,
or your
definitely.
study.
Yeah.
Those activities will help you a lot to learn some like a normal Korean languages outside of your like a technical terms, right?
Once you understand Korean culture well, Korean language well, then research language would also be easy. Yeah.
Nice, great. Okay, let's move on to our third questions. What are the most effective networking strategy for international researcher in Korea, particularly for Korean research institute and industries who are not yet fluent in Korean? Wow, this is another like a Korean related.
Well, if you mentioned research institutes, again, you don't have to be the one fluent in Korean. More than likely, they are going to know enough English to communicate. Now, you can bridge the gap by doing as much Korean as you can. And even, fun fact, my Korean ability is not that good. But when I try to use Korean, people often find that flattering. And they give me the benefit of the doubt. Sometimes some would say that it's better to know very little Korean and show effort than it is to already be fluent in Korean. So you can use that to your advantage by just putting in the effort to make the communication happen. And if you do that, then maybe they're going to say, hey, look, here's a person who's trying to communicate with me. They're putting in this effort. Maybe they put that same effort into other aspects of their work, and it might make you more attractive of an option to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah, even like small phrases like 감사합니다. 한국말 잘하시네요.
Oh yeah,
This
they
kind
say
of, yeah, it's
they
really
will give you a
flattering.
big compliment
Yeah, it's
just
really
to say hello.
flattering. Yeah, that definitely works.
Yeah, so just to try whatever language that you show the passion to learn about the Korean language, then they will really appreciate about it. And there are some statistics telling about how much people love to listen the foreigners speaking their own languages. So Korean was one of the area people think, wow, you can speak so well. And this is one of the countries that having a very high effectiveness that once you try only. So just to say a few words will give them a very good impression about you. So just to try. Even made a mistake, if you made a mistake, then they will come and try to teach you. So that is another opportunity for them, for you to improving of your Korean language skill. Good. Okay, so now what research did you do when you were at PhD, and how did it connect to your career now?
Okay, so my PhD research was in neuroscience, and specifically I was working with Alzheimer's disease and checking the disease progression and looking at how sleep would deteriorate over time. So it was a longitudinal study about the sleep deterioration in neurodegenerative diseases. Now, currently, while I am still working on neuroscience, my specific focus is not related to neurodegenerative diseases, and it's not related to sleep. The only thing is that it's neuroscience. Now, I've also heard people who kind of go in completely different directions from their PhD to their postdoctoral research. The key thing is that you learn a few concepts that are going to be important, and you learn how to lead your own research project. You learn how to think as a scientist. You learn how to publish research. You learn how the process works. So if you can get a PhD in neuroscience, in kind of any field of neuroscience, a lot of times it's going to be transferable to another field of neuroscience. So right now I'm working on astrocytes, which is the most numerous cell in the brain, and I'm looking at the volume change and how that might affect cognition. I think it's fascinating research, but realistically, when I came into this project, I didn't know much about astrocytes. I didn't even know that they could switch volume. So
Then what do you think about these questions then?
So I'm still thinking about my PhD level, to be honest. But since I'm doing my master's now, I really do think that networking plays such a big role here. And as from the example of Victor, even though you don't know much about the project that is going on, I think it's really important to be passionate in this case. So showing your passion, definitely works big role.
Yeah. So whatever you try, actually, at the moment, like Victor said, that at the moment we don't know how we can connect with my experience to the next career, but eventually we have a long lifespan.
Oh,
So
definitely.
someday there is some kind of a converging and some like experience. Like you said in Taipei and other place, you don't know that kind of a community support and all these things as just a volunteer at that time. But later on, it becomes one of the big benefits in your career.
Yeah.
So at the moment, it may not benefit to your current career, but at the end, it will be really beneficial.
Absolutely, especially with the rise of AI. Now that AI is definitely influencing every possible field, I think there are a lot of more doors, more opportunities over there.
Yeah, so AI specialized.
Yeah.
I really recommend you to try not only in your field, but also in any area that you can expand your network, and it also can give you a kind of the opportunity, like you mentioned, that kind of introducing others and also connecting and make a good part of your life experience in some area, not only in the life or in the career, but that can be conversed as a one another aspect of your career. Like you can also start up, you can do your business, and also anything can be possible. Okay, nice. Okay, now let's move on to the next questions. Many foreign researchers would like to stay and work in Korea. Thanks to, love to hear that, after their research or postdoc degree. But it can be difficult to find information or opportunities. From your experience, what are the best way to explore career paths in Korea R&D company as a foreigner?
Okay, so there's a lot of layers to this question. First off would be utilizing the network that you form during your PhD process. Hopefully you are not going to be the first person who graduates from your department, and hopefully there are people who graduated before you who you refer to as your seniors. And sometimes these people have graduated into certain industry jobs, and you may be pursuing that type of position. So one thing you can do is ask the people who have made it to those positions. And if you're, depending on how large your program is, you can find people from other labs who've also done this. And that's one thing. A second thing is that in my experience, a lot of the professors within the programs, the PhD programs, usually, in my experience, they usually like to help their students succeed after they graduate, because the reputation of the students also carries weight towards the reputation of the professors. If you succeed, they look better too. So you can ask them for research and development opportunities as well. And the sooner you do that, the better, because you don't want to be graduating and then looking for a job. But I think there was another aspect to that question. It was just looking for, was it something about Korean or?
Let me go
They
back.
want to
Difficult.
stay in Korea.
Okay.
Yeah, getting a job and
Yeah,
it kind
just
of
a really
difficult
short,
to find the place to.
So when it comes to looking for research opportunities online, I definitely agree that that is a difficult thing, especially if you don't have the language. You can take advantage of opportunities at conferences, because a lot of times at conferences, they are going to have advertising companies. So if ever you've gone to a conference, you know that they have these times where you go around to the different companies with your stamp, and then you stamp your brochure, and then at the end you turn in that brochure, and then you can hopefully win something from the raffle. Those times are times where you could be meeting the people at the company. These people are very receptive to having a conversation with you, because that's why they are there. They are paid to be at that conference to set up networking connections. So you can go to them, and then you can ask those people like, hey, look, I'm interested in pursuing your line of work. How do I go about this? So that's a very easy way at a conference to meet a lot of different opportunities for research and development, and the same strategy can be applied for academia and postdoctoral positions. Instead of approaching the companies, you can approach professors.
Yeah, I definitely agree with about with the last part of going through this. I mean, thanks to professors or lab alumni, for example. But I'd also definitely mention some job platforms as also LinkedIn or K-Brain or Work in Korea. So there are such platforms that are really extremely useful for researchers, especially located in Korea. So you can try out these different platforms, and yeah, you can find plenty of possible opportunities for you, and as well as like research areas.
I heard from one researcher in the global talent researcher, also the non-Korean person. What he recommends is that try to participate in the Korean conference. Many people, they try to go to the international conference only, but if you want to expand your network, what he recommends is go to the Korean conference. Maybe they speak Korean only, but there are the people that you can connect it with. So a lot of Korean and those expert peoples are there, but because of it is only in Korean, many people are not much interested to go there. But definitely, it's not because of those lectures or the presentation you are going to listen, but you cannot listen if you cannot speak English, but cannot speak Korean. But definitely, there's a very important people all over there. But if you are the only non-Korean, people think, oh wow, you are coming here, even you are not so understanding what I'm saying. But yeah, then you can give some kind of a compliment. Because of your paper, I read that it was so good. That's why even I cannot fully understand what you are saying, but I really wanted to meet you in person. That is a really good like a way to be connected, and then it is a much better opportunity for you to having like a good impression to them. So that is something I heard from one of the researchers, that how he can expand his network.
That's useful to know.
That is another tips. Okay, so now maybe we can have some questions from the chat. So first question: do you think AI tool have changed how researchers connect and collaborate globally? Well, maybe I can ask you first, then.
Oh yeah,
AI
definitely.
tool.
I would say definitely yes, because AI tools have significantly changed this whole research area. Since like there are different types of AI, and when it comes to Gen AI, people usually tend to think of like just large language models and stuff. But still, if you just dig deeper, then you don't really only find that large language models, but also you'll come to know that so you'll come to know that you can use different AI tools in a different purpose. For example, let's say there is some AI that can help you to just, even though the research paper is in Korean, is fully in Korean, so it would summarize you so well that the research paper, so you can understand that paper well, and then just so from your understanding, you can just text that, the researcher directly. So that way you can establish that really meaningful networks in terms of language barrier. So even though you have some kind of language barrier, thanks to these translations, thanks to that like way of view that you can understand through these AI tools, so it gets a lot easier. So I think that way it's just a big help in this field, in terms of language barrier.
Yeah, well, how about you? What do you think about that?
I think AI tools are drastically changing, or not necessarily changing, but adding to
That's right.
a lot of different approaches for collaboration and networking and research in general. I used to think, oh, well, I'm doing a lot of wet lab, so hands-on experiments using mice, and AI will never be able to replace my work because I'm doing the surgeries, and then I'm putting a probe in this very specific area. But it turns out that now a lot of the data that is being developed is being used to make models of brains, so that the experiments I'm doing, a lot of the experiments I'm doing are not needing to be conducted now, because they're just taking the data and simulating what would happen if I put the probe here or put the probe here. Once there's enough data of that, then yeah, AI is going to massively impact my industry in this way. But I don't see that as a negative. I see that as an opportunity for me to learn what is going on and figure out how I can contribute to this system, because the ultimate goal is development. So as Aru said, AI can be used right now to enhance your ability to communicate. So if you're talking to a professor who cannot speak English as well as you'd like, well, you can have your message translated to Korean, perfect Korean, and send it to them. Or you can learn a little bit of AI, as Aru just mentioned that she learned AI and she's already incorporating that into her own research. So yes, it is affecting collaborations, it's affecting a lot of different aspects, but it's not a change that's going to slow down anytime soon. So I would suggest learning as much as you can about it and how to utilize it in your career path.
Yes, but I want to make some comments. Maybe there is a negative aspect of AI. Because I'm not a researcher, maybe I have a different opinion about some AI utilizations. What I found is because of, for example, like a ChatGPT, I can have the answer right away. But let's think about when we do some kind of a research, there are a lot of data we have to study first before we really do investigation or study about our research. But all this kind of a context we were collecting first to do some research and study, right? But now, because of AI, ChatGPT, they already like easily collecting all those information. So we do not go library and going paper and searching paper, pay paper, and reading everything to find the proper one and proper research that can fit to my research or something. So all these kind of a context that we have done before is no more because of this AI. So that is a very time efficient, but definitely we are losing some part of our this kind of a context. So at the moment, once we are doing some research, that is good to have a faster result. But in the future, all those context or the background knowledge that you're getting from these kind of studying and other books, preparations, then it becomes one of your strengths and knowledge, and it can be conversed with new knowledge or new research, and then it will come out someday suddenly from your a background. So all these things are something that is a kind of the benefits that you can get it, but not right away, but in the future if you are not using AI. But because of AI, we don't need to do that. So I'm a bit concerning on this aspect, actually.
I actually definitely agree with everything you just said. And I would actually, I don't want to digress too much, but on the topic of AI, one thing you have to be concerned with is that AI is being used a lot for publication nowadays because it can write better or can arrange words and choose better vocabulary than most people can do. But the problem is that when people are writing papers using AI, and the AI is writing the paper, then people are publishing research that's largely been conducted by AI. And sometimes it's not 100% correct. But then when you go back into AI and AI is trying to figure out the right answer for how the world works, it's going to be looking at published work that it was used to generate in the first place. So if someone uses AI to write a paper, that paper gets published, and then when someone researches something later, AI is going to cite AI's own opinion. So you do have to be careful with how you choose to use AI. But I still think it's a tool that will remain in science for the foreseeable future. So learn the strengths and learn the weaknesses.
I think, yeah, it's really important to follow any ethical considerations before using AI. So you have to use AI as a tool, as a researcher, because not as the basic tool for just data collection. But still, I believe that researchers should just look for information to collect data, like through, their own critical thinking way. Yeah, just going to Google Scholar, looking for different publications, reading them. But as for AI, again, AI is just really handful when it comes to summarizing data, or just if you want to be more effective, if you are maybe constrained in terms of time, AI is really helpful in this way. But when it comes to analyzing data, using your own idea is really important.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I don't want to lose any of those curiosity or the talents that we already have because of AI. So
yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the next questions. Wow, it is a very important question. These days, collaborations spawn cutting-edge research. However, when you get a paper rejected, could it be blamed on the collaborator, or it is best to share the blame? Also, how do you advise a researcher when his paper gets rejected? Is it common? I think it's common, right? At the first paper draft is rejected.
Yeah, actually, if your papers aren't getting rejected, I think many would say you're not aiming high enough. So you actually. I don't know how many. If you said if it gets rejected on the first try or second try, I've known many colleagues who've had their papers rejected 8 times.
Wow, 8 times.
And typically, science works by wanting to get the highest impact factor. Highest impact factor, highest citation rate. You may not like it, but that's a big factor of academic research. So scientists will often try to say, all right, if this is worth an impact factor 10, I'm going to aim for the 15 because it might get a 15. And then it gets rejected, so they try for a 14 and then a 13, and then eventually they get to what the paper is worth, and then it gets published. So I wouldn't worry too much about the rejection itself. I would look into the reviewer comments. Why is your paper getting rejected? And you can get a lot of information from that rejection. Rejection is a great learning opportunity, so I wouldn't see it necessarily as a negative. And when it's talking about blaming on the collaborator or blaming, I would tend to stay away from blaming anyone else. And this may be a very unique perspective. So if it's not for you, then it's not for you. But my opinion is to just blame everything on yourself. If you worked with a collaborator and the paper didn't get accepted because of something that happened at the collaborator's part, was it your choice to select that collaborator? How could you have done something different? How could you have helped that collaborator? So think of a way that you can find a way to blame yourself for it, so that way you're in control of the responsible outcome. The more blame that you can take for yourself, the more you are in control of the outcome. If you blame someone else, well, you're not in charge of that other person, then you can't do anything about it. But if you say, like, you know what, this is the problem, it doesn't matter who's blaming, but how do I fix the problem? So I wouldn't blame the collaborator. I try to figure out a way to resolve the issue. Yeah.
At least once you got rejected once, then you know there is something gap that I have to fill up.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
you found at least you found of that one. Yeah.
At least you know that there is a problem and that I have to
Yeah.
work with it. Oh,
And then
definitely seeing it as an opportunity to get better. I think to treat it as calm as possible. Yeah, to accept it.
maybe soon you will face
Maybe.
you will face this rejection. Then
maybe.
you can ask her back. Then what is the issue that why rejected? And you can find one by one and collecting all those things to improve of your research. Then definitely that will be helpful for you. Okay. Okay, so I don't know it is an answer that you are expecting, but I really hope that you can handle that kind of feeling when you got rejected. So that is a stepping point that you can grow further. Yeah. Okay. Let's say there is no way we can contribute to the work they are doing, but we think they can potentially be beneficial for us professionally. How can we connect that if we don't have anything to offer?
That's a very interesting question. I would approach this by not. Okay, so let's say, but we think they can be potentially beneficial for us in the future. I would just think of it as, here's a person I want to meet. I'm going to go meet this person. That's it. I wouldn't be thinking, how can I give something to them? How can they give something to me? I'm just going to meet this person. And then maybe through meeting them, you might learn how you can be beneficial to them. You can introduce yourself to them, and then they can say, oh, well, you have this skill that I actually find useful. Then they can approach you for that. And again, the earlier you start this, the more opportunity you'll have to develop that information.
So I believe it's more about building relationship over time rather than just immediate interact or immediately getting response. So it's rather working through that on that relationship, and developing that relationship over time, collaboration.
At least you can be a friend, right? And then you can teach them English. At least you can give them opportunity to speak English. All Korean, they want to learn English, but they don't. they don't try. So between Korean, we know that we need to improve our English, but we shy to try between Korean. But at least you give them an opportunity to speak English to you. So that is something that the first step that you can give them a good benefits.
Language exchange.
And then another one, this is based on my experience actually. In some kind of groups, there is also kind of writing a book group. Then I thought I can contribute this part. But later I found that they are not interesting. All these people are not interesting about this part that I can contribute. Then I feel like I'm useless in that group. I got suffered by this kind of feeling because at the beginning I thought that this is the only part that I can give them some kind of benefit and I can contribute. But when I got rejected, then I feel like useless in this group. But actually, later on, I realized that because of I was thinking that I only can contribute on this area, I forgot all other value in me. So I realized that after I giving up that I contribute on this area, I realized in many different aspects also I can contribute. So because of you are too much focusing on what you are contribute only, then you may lose your other value in yourself. So maybe you cannot right away find your value to contribute, but they will see the value in you. So don't think something that only what you think is the value. There are a lot of different value where people can see you. Yeah.
I very much agree with that.
I think good comment I did. I surprised myself. Okay. Good question. What is your ultimate career goal? You did briefly mention it earlier, but what prompt you to begin your postdoctoral research program at IBS? And are you satisfied with your research and life in IBS?
My ultimate career goal is, okay, I live my life not really looking 20 years down the line, 10 years down the line. But I do know my immediate goal and my goal with IBS, for example. I joined IBS because, for those who don't know, I saw a question earlier, what is IBS? IBS is Institute for Basic Science. Now, the purpose of IBS was that Korea wants to win a Nobel Prize in science. And it is funding IBS to try to help generate the first Nobel Prize in science. So I have the opportunity to be surrounded by literally some of the best scientists in Korea. So this is an opportunity I do not take for granted. Now, what is my goal with IBS? My goal is I want to generate some form of science that out of all my life, I can say I have contributed this to humanity. That people can look back and say, okay, Victor contributed this important thing to humanity. So I was thinking about this earlier today, and I kind of was joking with myself. I was like, oh, I want it to be as few words as possible. Like, Victor cured cancer. Like, obviously, cancer is a very big goal, but I realized that the bigger the goal, the fewer words you could use to describe it. So maybe Victor solved this question for neurodegeneration. So I want to solve a problem in science and contribute in such a way that years later, I can actually say that I've contributed this thing to humanity. That gives me something measurable that will last the test of time, this kind of thing. And am I happy with my career in IBS? Yes, I am. Now, I will also say these have been some of the most challenging times of my life, working amongst people who are, okay, I'll put it like this. When I first came to IBS, I was thinking, all right, I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I can definitely be one of the hardest working people in the room. And then I found out that these people are working 10 hours, 12 hours a day, every day. It's like, man, I'm trying to compete with people who are both hardworking and really, really smart. But I think I'm extremely fortunate to be surrounded by these people. So I'm trying to contribute to them. I'm trying to make them better however I can. And as you mentioned earlier, there are ways that people find that you can contribute to them without you even knowing that. And so I'm doing that now with a lot of my lab mates, and they're helping me out as well. So yes, I'm very satisfied with my life at IBS. And it's definitely challenging, but challenging things are generally the things that are most worth it. So
they're just saying that you are the average of five
people
people you
that
are surrounded with.
Yeah.
And you, what is your goal?
So first of all, that's truly impressive. And yeah, because the more I look at this kind of people, the more I get motivated, because now that I'm just progressing with my master's degree, actually I kind of realized that, oh, getting this title of master's of being or PhD, it requires a lot of work, a lot of hard work, and you have
10
to,
hours, 14 hours.
Yeah, as you mentioned. And just it's really important to just stay on track and just catch up with your colleagues. And I totally, yeah, again, it's really impressive. And as for me, again, just seeing this kind of individuals, I get motivated, and I'm soon to become or either PhD master, getting PhD degree, or also maybe staying in Korea is just one of my long terms. Yeah, I'd like to stay in Korea and go to industry in Korea as well. Yeah,
that's why we are doing the KIRD is hoping for you to stay in Korea. All the researchers and global talent to stay in Korea. That's what we are hoping for. That's why we are conducting this kind of a career talk. And myself also personally, I really hope that many foreigners and I don't want to say foreigner, the global talent people, even regardless of what their talent, I really hope that Korean is becoming more global country and make them to feel more comfortable. Yes, we were still very homogeneous, and then now we are growing, but we would like to have you here, and the percentage of the foreign or non-Korean people resident here, then maybe that is much easier for you, less challenges. So yeah, you are those initiative person. I really hope. Okay, so Okay, let's get some questions from the chat. This is a question from a chat. What's your take on the focus of local collaborations versus international collaborations, or same field versus across different fields for upcoming researchers? Wow. So what do you think about the like a local collaboration, international collaboration? What is the benefit between these two when you think about? And then the same field or across different fields?
Okay, so there's 3 layers to that. As you mentioned, the first one is local versus international. The second one was same field or across different fields. And the third one, I'm not sure if this is particular, but for upcoming researchers. So if you're less established, I'm going to take it as that. But if I'm just going to isolate local versus international, I would probably recommend start with local, because local, you don't have to deal with time zones. You can meet these people on a regular basis. If you need something delivered, it can be delivered quickly instead of internationally. And all of these factors do come into play. There's also different aspects of culture that you may or may not have to deal with. So ultimately, I would start with local collaborations. And if it cannot be done locally, then you consider internationally. So internationally would probably be for larger types of projects where you need some extraordinarily rare machine, or something that maybe the laws in different countries, because we do research on certain drugs, for example. So there may be some restrictions on that. I'm not 100% sure how that would work with international collaborations, but I would have it local first, and then if it cannot be handled local, then I would consider international. As far as same field or across different fields, I think I'm going to lean a little bit towards the across different fields. I mean, same fields, definitely. You're going to be able to do a lot of collaborations within the same fields, but I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities getting perspectives from people who are not in your same field. We were talking about AI earlier. AI was not originally a biological tool, but it's definitely enhancing certain biological aspects. So you can learn a lot of things. Like I'm doing something that's kind of biophysiological, so there's some physics involved in it as well. And if you're dealing with experts in different fields, they can give you perspectives that you probably wouldn't consider on your own. So, and then for upcoming researchers, I would want to say try different things and find out what works best for you.
I think this is just my personal, because I'm not a researcher, but across different fields can have a higher value contribution, because different field researcher definitely does not have any like a knowledge about your field. This means that they are depending a lot on you, your knowledge and your contribution. So maybe different area field collaborations, maybe kind of a way that you can contribute more and become a more important person in that research. That is one thing that, I can come up my mind.
That's a good point. I just agree, because for me, it's also such an important point. It was, I mean, good advice, because as an upcoming, just rising researcher myself, I always wonder, okay, what if I find some kind of interest not only in my field, but what if I develop my interest in just definitely another field as well, but even though I'm not really proficient in that field. But now that you answered this, I have a vision.
Okay, so next questions. What's the best networking tips for securing job after PhD or postdoc? What roadmap will you recommend? I think partially you already answered for that, but if anything else that you can talk.
Okay, so I did touch upon that earlier. So, but I'll re-summarize it. The first thing I would do is start building your networks now, whether you need them or not. Just start building a network now. By network, I mean talk with other researchers in your field, outside of your field, talk with professors, both in and out of your field. And to secure a job, look at what other labs are doing and if you find a lab that is something that you're interested in, I mean, I usually recommend that you build a network beforehand. But if you, let's say it's too late and you still want to join a certain professor's lab, reach out to that professor. Like you'll have their email, you'll have their contact information. Read some of their research. Read what their lab is about right now, what their future directions are. Consider how you can contribute to that future direction. What skills do you bring to the table? And then treat it like you are selling yourself to that project. Like, hey, I can contribute this skill to this project and enhance it in this way. Is this something you might be interested in? But again, if you can take that in slower steps over a longer period of time, that I think would be more effective.
Then how about you? Are you putting your efforts to expand your network for your future career?
I'm here.
This is another kind of a networking.
Yeah, definitely. Because right now, again, as I have started my master's, I'm still working on joining. For example, I'm starting from the really simple things as joining student clubs, and it goes beyond by attending different seminars. And as Victor has mentioned earlier, if I find someone really interesting, I think it's not only seeing someone, for example, some network you want to establish the connection with. So not just as a tool, but as the way, just you have to have that sincere interest in that person. So that's what I'm learning to do. If I find someone genuinely interesting in that kind of seminars, I just try to approach them, just to have that small talk, small discussions. And yeah, that's how I'm working now.
Every time I go for training or lectures about Korean cultures or for the non-Korean people, I recommend a lot about this Toastmaster Club. Actually, this is you know that?
I was a member of Toastmasters.
Yeah. Because there are a lot of English speaking Toastmaster Club. So in this case, that you can meet somebody who can speak English. So many of them who are the member of a Toastmaster Club, then they are working in a global company or something related to the global area, because that's why they can speak English and they want to improve their English. That's why they are participating in these Toastmaster clubs. This means they are one of the very good networking out of your field. Then they have some information about different field, and then you are outstanding because you are non-Korean. So that is one of your benefit. Then they will really happy that you are there, because majorities are Korean, but they want to learn, improve their English, and they want to make friends with a non-Korean. So if you participate there, they will welcome you, and then also you can meet somebody who is working in global company. That can be another potential network and opportunity for you to expand and find something good career. And you can also express that what you are going to do or what you are looking for after your degree. Then maybe they keep that in mind, and then they will think about that. So definitely that will be another way that you can expand other than your field.
Okay. And just a little bit follow up on, for those who don't know what Toastmasters is, a toast is something that you give at the end of or before you're going to cheers on a drink, and then you say like, may we all live happy lives, cheers. That's a toast. And the reason why it's called Toastmasters is you're speaking in front of a lot of people. So Toastmasters, the function of that organization is to help you develop your public speaking. And as was said earlier, it helps you networking as well. So you develop more confidence speaking in front of people, and you get to connect with the people in that program.
And then you can improve your public speaking.
Speaking.
Like you are going to do a lot of presentation and poster presentation. All these things are related to your presentation skill. This is a really important soft skill that you need to have, and then it will give you a lot of benefit once you have it. So I really recommend you to find somewhere to practice of that one.
So Toastmasters can be found in each city of Korea, or
we have a lot of clubs in Korea, like more than 60 clubs, and a lot of I think 3 in Daejeon also.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, let me share that information later also. Okay, there is maybe last 2 questions. Okay, suppose I have an idea that requires a small amount of funding, but I am unable to provide it myself. in that case, should I approach an institution or try to connect with someone who has the financial ability? If it is better to connect with an individual, how should I approach them? Should I share the full detail of my idea from the beginning?
Okay. So with this one, if you have a research idea, generally I would say the best approach is to join an institute. Now, if you are already part of an institute, like for example, a school of some university, then you might want to seek funding from your professor or a neighboring professor. But let's just say you don't have access to that. Then you might want to apply for grants to see if your project aligns with certain grant opportunities. Generally, I would say that individuals, getting fundings from individuals is more reserved for startup companies and industry. But if you're looking for academia, then I would probably look at the NRF or the Korean Fellowship Research Fund, or the National Research Fund from Korea. Those are some options. Those are just for like broader project funding. So those are some options, but ultimately I would not pursue an individual. I would pursue a foundation or an institute that's already set up for providing funding for research projects.
So you ever tried of any research
No,
funding?
not yet, but I was also looking for funding opportunities, and I would say the resources that helped me a lot. For example, not only in Korea, but beyond Korea also, there are a lot of on LinkedIn as well. For example, the websites as opportunities corners that publish a lot of funding opportunities, research projects. So you can join that, you can send your proposal, and that way you can get funding, that you can get noticed. So that is one thing that I can recommend.
Other than research, I also heard from one of the professor, the non-Korean professor, when he studied doctoral degree and master degree in Korea, he got some funding for the community work. So he do some kind of volunteer work because he found that he was in a Gangwon province. So he found that people are not used to see non-Korean. So they have some kind of a bias and prejudice about non-Korean people, the foreigner there. So he thought that maybe I can break that prejudice. So he organized all these doctor degree and master degree co-friends that he studied together, and then asked them to come. And he proposed some project and get funded from government. And then he busy to the elementary school students and teaching about their country. So teaching about their country, then why they are here and what is their study. After that, this small village and surrounding all those people who saw them, say really friendly and hello, and then they become a very well like a settle down in that countryside. So he did this kind of a project for 2 years, and then he found that even who is living in Busan and very far to Gangwon, but they're still coming because they enjoy a lot being with children who. They are very naive. They just asking why you have different skin color. They asking like that, very frank. But it is okay because they can explain and they can be a friend and it can break their like a prejudice. So he feel very rewarded after this kind of a volunteer work, and they also got funded by the government because he can propose and he can cooperate with some Korean. So you also can try something like this. I really hope that it is a very good way that you can have a good network and can settle down in the society also, not in the field of career. Okay, so that's outside of the researcher, I can comment. Okay, thank you for the great questions. Thanks to your question, we could have some good, valuable talk here. Okay, and maybe this is the last comments that we can ask the speaker and panelists. How was the session today?
Today, this was a pretty exciting session. I'm actually a little bit jealous of the audience because I didn't have this type of opportunity
before.
but I'm grateful to have the opportunity to share my experiences with you. I hope that you can gain something of value from this experience, and hopefully it affects your career opportunities going forward. And I wish you all the best in your research and development, job search, career search, future going forward.
And also we will share this the Padlet. So in that Padlet, so we will put our LinkedIn profile there. So you can connect it with speakers and panelists, and also you can ask a further question that we couldn't cover today due to the time constraints. So, I forgot to ask your last comment. So,
one brief comment. So, I would say that you never know what specific opportunity where it could lead you. So I would always say that to trust your gut, for example, because everyone has their own gut feeling, right? So if you feel that this exact opportunity would be rewarding, then just go for it. Just go try your best to have that good impression, best impression, just following the advice that Victor gave us, just for example, wearing really nice dress, or this kind of public speaking skills that you have to always work on yourself, and just by developing yourself, you will get to know a lot of people. And as we are here as foreigners in Korea, I think that's the thing that we all need, just to communicate with other people, not only with Koreans, but also with international other foreigners as well. So I would really recommend that attending this kind of seminars is really important. And thank you everyone for joining. And it's really nice to be here.
Yeah, I love that you found this opportunity and listen this great talk from our speaker and panelists. And I really hope that it is not the end. Let's continue to connect each other. So there is a link on the chat, so you can access there. There is a Padlet. Then you can leave your LinkedIn profile also, and you can find our LinkedIn also. So regarding about cultures and regarding about anything about AI master degree, or anything about the researchers postdoctoral degree, and all these things are something you can continue to ask and further, like Victor shared his experience. Wow, your paper is so good. So you can start from today after this session. So let's try to be connected to each other. That's not the end of this session today. So, okay, and finally, one more exciting announcement. Our next session will be on Wednesday, November 12th, featuring a researcher from Hanguk Tire, who will talk about the career growth in Korea. We'd love to see you again that time. And thank you once again for spending your evening with us and having a wonderful night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.